you studiers of child development. How's it going this week? I hope you've had a chance to get your book. It looks like this. You definitely need to get a hold of a copy, whether you've rented it or purchased it. Either way is fine. This chapter, like all the chapters, has a ton of information. So I thought I'd take a minute and just break down a little section of it and just give you a little face-to-face time here, okay? So I'm going to talk about the three basic issues in child development theories and just sort of get you started on this chapter. There's no way I can cover what we would cover in a face-to-face class on video. It's just too much information, but I can get you going and then give you a few hints to help you focus in on what would be the most important parts of the chapter. So I'm going to take myself off the screen here so you can see the notes as they come up. Hopefully I can do this right now, maybe. Wait, not there. That's all of me. This is just a little bit of me. Okay, I want none of me. There. Okay, so I'm going to put this down here. All right. Here we go. Speculation about child development combined with research has inspired the construction of theories and development. So what I mean by that is that this is not just a book full of best guesses or what people think in their opinions. Most of the information in the book presented are theories, not just guesses. And a theory is different because it has an orderly set of statements and it's based on a research work, a body of work done by scientists over time, and it has stood up to scrutiny for a long time. So we're not just guessing, they're not just things that we think we know, these are indeed theories. So as we study theories, what we discover is that there's like three basic issues, the theories of development anyways, that's what we're talking about in this class. The theories have to take a stand on three issues. So those three issues are, is the course of development continuous or discontinuous? So that's our first question. And I'm going to go into these in detail in a minute, so just bear with me while I list them out. So number one is continuous or discontinuous. Number two, is the same course like the same for all children, or are there many different possibilities? Do all children develop exactly the same, or does each child have a little different course of development? That's the next question that has to be addressed. The third issue comes down to that nature versus nurture question that we're talking about on the discussion board. So what are the roles of genetics versus environment? That's the nature versus nurture. So let's take a look at that first one, development versus continuous versus discontinuous development. So continuous development theorists, the scientists who land on this side, would say that it's like one big arch like this. So like people just kind of make their way up the development, both physically, cognitively, and psychologically. Maybe everyone doesn't make it to the top. You know people probably who didn't quite reach the levels of psychological development we hope for everyone, or children who are along the way. Discontinuous development theorists would say that it happens in stages. Like a whole bunch of something happens, like all of the prenatal things happen, and then you're an infant and you're in that stage for a while. When you leave infancy, you take a big step up and you go into like early childhood, and then you take a big step up and you go into middle childhood, and then adolescence and adult. So these are like kind of plateaus, and then the large sharp incline and a big step up. So that would be what a discontinuous theorist would say. So we just talked about this. Continuous is a process of gradually adding. That was the nice, even, smooth scope. Discontinuous was steps with emerging skills at specific times. Theorists that accept the discontinuous see development as taking places in stages. We just talked about that. So you're either looking for specific periods or you're looking for this one easy long slope of continuous development. When you're studying theories and you're trying to decide, does this guy believe in continuous or discontinuous development? This one's pretty easy to identify. Okay, so the second big issue is one course of development or many. So here we are asking, do children develop all the same, or could I expect something different from a different child? So your stage theorists, so those are going to be the ones with the stair steps, right? Those are going to be your discontinuous theorists. They all assume that children pretty much follow the same sequence, no matter where they are, what kind of environment they're in. It just happens according to these stages, and they're pretty sure they have them all nailed down. The field is becoming increasingly aware through research and scientists that children grow up in distinct contexts, which is the environment in which they're in, and that can cause different results, right? Children develop differently based on their environment. Contemporary theorists regard the context that shape development as many layered and complex. The more historical theorists you're going to read about in the textbook had kind of hard and fast ideas, and they didn't leave a lot of wiggle room for what was happening in the child's life, and they saw it as kind of black and white. But more modern research is showing that it's like many layered and very complex. So here we have our personal nature, heredity kind of things, and our environmental contexts, like children that get read to at home read sooner in preschool, or is that just a developmental stage which they all should reach at the same time? Just one way to think about that. Okay, now we're down to nature versus nurture. This is an age-old controversy, like the bullet point says. People are always asking, nature versus nurture. I don't know. Sometimes something comes up and you're like, oh boy, I can label that one right away. Sometimes not so much. So nature, of course, refers to your biological, hereditary type traits. Nurture is the things that are happening around you that influence you. So let's say you have a child in your preschool whose parents are both, school teachers, and they read all the time, and they read to this child all the time. They come to preschool and they're ready to read when they're 4. Is that the result of nature? Were they born with these academic sort of skills because their parents are sort of academics? Or is it nurture because the parents have been reading to them because of their nature? So whose nature and whose nurture are we even talking about? It's all very complicated. Researchers also disagree on the question of stability versus plasticity. So meaning, do children develop what they develop and that's that? So it's very stable. So this is where the heredity is. You either will be a good reader or you won't be a good reader. You'll be good at math or you won't, because that's a stable skill that you developed based on heredity. Or some theorists would say the environment is more important. Maybe you don't have a natural bent towards mathematics, but someone worked with you and you had tutoring and lots of experience, and so you thus developed good math skills. Okay, plasticity also is the idea of changing, again with the math. If you didn't have the skill immediately, or you weren't naturally gifted, but you worked hard, are you able to grow those skills? Balanced point of view, of course, it always comes back to a balance, right? Today, we've got theories that combine both continuous and discontinuous. We have scientists that acknowledge that you can have things that every child develops at almost exactly the same time, and some things that every child develops differently. You can have a combination of the two. It's all just taking a little bit of it and putting it together in a balanced context. A growing number of investigators regard heredity and environment as inseparably interwoven. So let's go back to that child in your preschool who is ready to read at age 4. The parents at home read all the time. They have, an academic sort of mindset. So the nature of their biology that they've passed on to their child appears to be academic, but also the environment in which they're living with this child is contributing to the academics, because they're reading to the child. There's lots of print. The child's world is just full of literacy. So which thing is it? And could you even separate them? Is it inseparably interwoven? There's no way to know. Okay, so this is about resilience, which we're going to get into in a little later chapters. Do children have an experience early or later, and does that make up so that there's no way to make it up? Can they adapt and still develop properly or not? So a child who's resilient can adapt and make up the loss in development. A child who's not resilient may not be able to do that. All right, so that's kind of the three issues that all theories have to address in order to really, sort of be a theory and address the big issues. So anyways, I hope that helped that make a little bit better sense for some of the things you've read in the text. As you're going through your textbook, getting ready to take the quiz, pay attention to the theorists that are listed. What do they say? Were they stage theorists or were they continuous development theorists? Kind of use these three issues to sort out which theory goes with which issue, or where the theory lands on each issue, if that makes sense. So I hope this is helpful. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you on the discussion board and also in the syllabus document on Google. I'm finding a good conversation going on there. So I'll see you soon.